Hello everybody, it's Liz with Love here and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you are a regular here. Today I have another eco lifestyle inspired video for you, and I will be building a community garden for this one. So this is actually what I did for Ashaife's shell challenge for this month of May, and she will be touring the entries on tonight's stream, the night when you're seeing this. So do come over there on her Twitch channel. I will link it down below. I believe there will be plenty of amazing entries, and all the people who submit them always just knock it out of the park, and I'm amazed. So this is my entry for that challenge and how I built it. So basically, the way Ash does her shell challenges usually, or like this one and the previous one before this, is that she doesn't give you a full shell. She gives you rooms that you put together, and you put them in whichever shape or form you want. And the brief for this one was to make them into a community space, community garden, something like that. And so that's what I did, but I did add some, you could say, typical Lose with Love touches to it. So I added a pond, because if you haven't noticed, I've just been adding ponds to so many of my builds recently. So of course, we had to have a pond here as well. And I built a bridge over that pond using one of the rooms that we got in that, and that was the round one. I thought it was like a cool little gazebo bridge kind of thing, you know. And I used quite a bit of debug around the pond, and I added a little boat on it, even though like the little lake is way too small to have a boat on it. But I thought, you know, nevertheless, I'll add it. It just looks good. And I added the little fishing sign that I hid in the bushes. And what that does basically is it spawns fish in the pond. So there is fishies in this pond. They are kind of like on the right side of the bridge and under it, because they're in debug, and each of them has like a different distance at which the fish spawn, I think. Or is it that different kinds of fish spawn? I'm not sure. I think it varies by distance as well. Anyways, when you create ponds like this, always landscape around them and make them look natural. I did add this murky kind of water, which I'm not sure if it comes in Get Together or Jungle Adventure, because that's the two of them that have like different water textures, different water colors, things like that. So one of them definitely. And I used the regular rocks that we just have in the base game, and I sized them up and down, and I put them in the black swatch because I thought that looked a little better, because sometimes I feel like the gray ones kind of stand out too much. So I thought this looked pretty cool. And if you do have Get Together, a great way to line pools, if you want them to look like natural ponds, is definitely that it's like a grass that's meant to go around pools. I think they even use it in the Bluffs build that's just there in the game. And they work really great at lining pools like this. So definitely use those if you are looking to try something similar. And yeah, just a bunch of plants. I really like how ponds turn out when they just have a bunch of plants around them. And I wanted to add some under the stairs as well, so that it looks more natural. And after I will have done that, I will move on to the next part, which I will just put away the trees which I put in the bag. And that's like a thing that I do. When I see something good in debug, I'll just put multiples of it somewhere around the build, so that I don't forget to use it later on, and I can just find it, because you can't clone the item if it's debug. And so the next thing that I wanted to do was a little treehouse. So this community garden has a little treehouse in the back, and it's a kids treehouse. So I have always been struggling with like kids hangouts in my world, because when you play with kids in The Sims, there's very limited amount of things that they can do. And it's also like when you take your kids outside to any community lots, all they usually can do is just like go to a playground. So I wanted to have this as a like fully usable family space where you can take your Sims and just stay there the whole day while the parents are gardening and things like that. The kid can just play in the treehouse with other kids. There's also like a little playground in the end, so they can play there. That was my idea for this build. I wanted it to be usable for every single age group. Well, maybe besides toddlers. There's some things that the toddlers can do in the treehouse, of course, but there's like a dollhouse, there's Blarfy, but it's not a Blarfy, it's like the dragon that comes with vampires, I think. Yeah, I think so. So I put the treehouse on little stilts, and I just put a tree in the middle so that it kind of looks like it is supported by that tree. But since we got the stilts, that has made tree houses so much easier, because I remember before we got those stilts, I was building a tree house and it was fully just supported by trees, or like, you know what I mean. It was meant to look fully supported by the trees, and it just looked kind of ridiculous because with the stilts it just looks so much more realistic, especially since we don't have like I know in Sims 3 Generations we had a fully functional like treehouse item that you just put on your lot for your kids, but I find it fun to be able to design the inside of the treehouse, you know. So I added plenty of items that the kids can use. I added some blankets down there. I added like the little my first pet stuffed chair. It's adorable, isn't it? And even though like some of these items are not usable, I feel like sometimes people just say, oh, why would you put it down if it's not usable, if you can't use it for its design purpose? Like, I put down the school projects, but the kids can't do them because they don't own them, because they're on a community lot. But I thought, you know what, it just adds clutter to the space and it looks good, and there's still plenty of things that the kids can do. Like, I'm gonna go on to add the scouting board, and you can't use it because you don't own it when you come to this lot. Which is what I found out when I play tested it. But it still looks like a cool decoration, and there's plenty of things that your kid can do nonetheless. Like, there's the llama table, there's the dollhouse, there's a few different chests with toys, there's a space for seating so that like if your kids want to do their homework, they can sit there, and there's even like a little playground later on. So like this is very good space for kids, and just some of the items don't work on community lots, which I think is fine. It looks good, and there's plenty of ones that you can use. So, end of rant. We are basically finished with the treehouse now. I'm just adding some vines on the sides, and we are going to move on to furnishing, or like just adding some benches and plants to the little gazebo that you enter through. So I love using these cats and dogs benches. I think they're probably, yeah, they're definitely my favorite bench in the game, but I also use them in places like cafes and things like that. They're just adorable. I love cats and dogs build and buy wise. If you are a builder and you kind of like the style of builds that I build, cats and dogs is a really good one that you're going to use a lot. So if you don't have it, that may be a good one to invest in. Anyways, I took these two long rectangular rooms, and since I used all the small ones at that point, I thought that one of them is going to be like a little community garden space. So it's like a greenhouse, and that's the one that we're looking at right now, the one on the left. And the one on like the further right is going to be like a workshop kind of thing, but there's also public bathrooms. There's also what else is there? There's a selling table, and yeah, there's like the woodworking table, an archaeology table, a flower arranging table, things like that. So like skill building activities, and there may be an easel. We'll see when we get to that. And I wanted to have the greenhouse really look overgrown a lot, because you guys know this, I love my spaces overgrown. I love to add plenty of plants, and you know, I just like greenhouses when they're like plenty of plants on the walls around them. And so I went ahead and I filled the whole back wall of this with the Jungle Adventure flowers that just go up the wall. I loved using those, they look so good in my opinion. And I also added quite a few of the get together like ivy plants with the flowers climbing up. I don't know, I don't know the correct terminology. And I also added quite a few of the vampire vines over the windows, you know, as to look like, you know, the greenhouse has probably been there for a while. The community has been using it quite a bit. And then once I finished putting the plants all around the greenhouse, I thought, you know what this is missing? It's missing some terrain editing. Because in quite a lot of my builds, I just like to use this even just to add a little hill to give it a bit more dimension. And sure, it does make some things more complicated, like adding plants and landscaping in general, but I think it's worth the dimension that it adds to the builds. So that's what I did. I lifted the area with the workshop space a little bit, and I don't think you'll see this on camera, but I also added like a little hill under the treehouse. I think I cut that part out because it was taking a while, but yeah, you'll see that it will change in a minute. And of course I wanted to add a little kid space, so there is like a little playground. I think I am going to delete the monkey bars though and just leave the swings in, because I want to add a grill, and when I find out that I have no other place to put it, I will delete the monkey bars and put that grill in there. But you know, they've still got the swing set, and they've still got plenty of room in the treehouse. I really wanted this to look like kind of rusty, but not as rusty as that roof I was originally using. So then I found this like shelf kind of overhang, shelf looking thing, and I just put a bunch of plants on it over the greenhouse, and I think that looks really good. Also, I was having some trouble putting down some of the plants around the greenhouse because it was snapping up over the foundation. So I'm really happy that we're getting that base game update soon in a few days that will fix that, because if you didn't know, that one of the things that are supposed to come in the free update is that like plants are no longer going to be so sensitive to the foundation height, which I can't wait for, because that is such an annoying thing when you are a landscaping builder. Like when you do plenty of landscaping, it's annoying. And like there's a few plants that are not as affected by this, but yeah, quite a lot of them are just like, come on, you're not even close to the foundation. And then I filled up this space with a few more plants. Of course, a few more plants is my motto, and then we end up with just a build full of plants, you know. But as you guys know, I like to always leave the landscaping in my videos because I think it's helpful. I would have found it helpful if more people did it when I started building, and that I just want to provide that for the people who are interested in the landscaping part. And you can always skip it, you know, you can rush through it or skip it if you're not interested in the landscaping. But I am, and I feel like a lot of people are, and there's not that many videos and that many creators who focus on the landscaping or like on putting it in the video. Not to say that people do bad landscaping, I just mean that people cut it out of the video oftentimes. Yeah, I just added some more trees around the place because it was looking kind of bare and low. And after I was done with the trees, of course, we had to do some terrain painting and add a little dirt around the pond, around the flowers, under the playground. That really does make a massive difference. When you feel like your landscaping is not really that good in a build or something like that, always terrain paint. That's what I find is always missing when I'm not happy with my landscaping. And I also like to blend items like the monkey bars and the swings into the environment, so like I added a few plants around it closely. And yeah, there you can see that I added another tree in the front of the tree house just to, it was feeling like a bit of a bare area and I wanted something taller than just plants over there. Plus, I can't really put plants under the treehouse itself, or like I think I could if I just lowered the treehouse and then placed them in it and then left it again, or would they stick with the foundation then? I don't know, but basically I couldn't put plants under the treehouse, so I tried to hide that with firstly the building on the left and secondly the other tree that I added. And I think it all turned out pretty okay. Like, it doesn't really look like there's like a big gap or anything like that. I mean, if you look from the back, the treehouse is like, maybe I could have added a few more plants around the back of the treehouse. That's the only thing. But that's just the danger of using tall stilted foundation. You can't really do anything underneath it, and I would love to do something underneath it. So now we are sort of moving on to the inside of the two buildings. At 50 minutes in, we are finally starting to furnish. No, I'm just kidding. We did the treehouse, so that was some furnishing. And I really like how the bathroom turned out in this build. I added the laundry day sinks, and I added the jungle adventure mirror. And I absolutely love the jungle adventure mirror. It's my favorite mirror in the game. It just looks amazing, and it suits this build very well with like the reclaimed kind of vibes and with like sustainable, you know what I mean. It just looks sustainable and reclaimed, and like they got it at a charity shop or something like that. And I also added the moving hangout mirrors over the sinks because they were one of the few ones that fit over those laundry day sinks. And of course you can lift the others, but then they don't look as good. They kind of look weird. So that was the little bathroom, and I don't know why I zoomed out that much at that point. Oh yeah, I realized I forgot to put on windows on that build. So that's what I did next, and I added a few more plants to the bathroom. I did add like a few paintings and things like that. Oh, and by the way, for the toilet roll, since this is for Ash's shell challenge, if you're not on her streams, you won't know this, but she is very much obsessed with telling people that the right way to hang toilet paper is what I consider the wrong way. Like she puts the hanging piece under. I think it belongs over. Anyways, to end that argument, I put one of each in those toilet stalls. So there's one toilet stall with the paper hanging over, and there's the other one with the paper hanging under. So this way both Ash and I can be happy. So then I realized I was missing this outdoor grilling area that I really wanted to do, and I moved on to add that and a few bikes outside as well, so that it looks like, you know, it's being used. There's a few people coming every day, bike there or they walk there. And I added these boxes as well because it's a community garden, so I thought, you know, that sounds legit. And I added the selling table from Jungle Adventure to the inside actually. So I thought, you know, maybe they have like workshop sales or things like that. People can just craft anything and then sell it on the selling table. I feel like that's a good idea for having something like that in the builds, because, you know, if your Sims come here, they can craft something and then immediately sell it for a better profit on the selling table, which is always great, and they don't have to buy the table, they can just use the one that's here. And I added some clutter. Of course, you can never have enough clutter in your builds. And that is basically about it for this like little shed, and then we will move on to the greenhouse next. And every time I do like greenhouses or gardeners' homes, I always want to have the plants there already for the screenshots, because in my opinion it just looks so empty without that. So after I did this build, I spent like an hour making a family like playtest this as well, but I was planting all the plants and I was cheating them to grow, and then when they grew I was waiting for them to bloom and things like that, so that it would look great on the screenshot. So like this build took like another hour after I was finished building this, just so I could take the screenshots because I wanted to have the plants in. Could I have done it without the plants? Of course I could have, but that's not how I work. I'm a perfectionist. And I added a few more vines around the back of this building too, because it was looking a little too polished, and I, as I said, wanted to make it a little rough around the edges, things like that. So we are getting quite close to the end. I'm just finishing up the greenhouse and then that will be it. I wanted to have both plants and fruits in here, because I thought maybe if you're playing like a rags to riches or something, it could be great to come here and harvest it for the food. But then again, you can also just use the flowers to create flower arrangements, because there's a flower arranging table both in the greenhouse and in the little shed. So that's what I added, and I love using those seasons like plant wall decorations. the ones that go just like over the whole wall. It feels so nice and realistic. It's so nicely cluttered. I love nice clutter in The Sims. I feel like I've been saying that for like 10 times in this one video. And I put down the different plants and fruits in the pots so that I could just go ahead and plant them with my Sims afterwards. And can we just talk about how amazing these Jungle Adventure floorboards are? I've been using them in so many builds since I got Jungle Adventure because I just love the look of them. I feel like they fit so many more places than just the jungle. They fit basically any like cottage or something like that because they look so rough, but they also kind of fit like modern houses and apartments because like a look like this is kind of modern. So I just love this flooring. That has got to be my absolute favorite flooring in the game for sure. But I gotta admit that the vampire flooring, the wooden floor from Vampires, is also really nice. So I've added plenty of wall decor, and I don't usually use as much wall decor, but here like in the greenhouse we had a whole empty wall. So I was playing around with different ideas and I added some herbs, I added some plants, I added like that little tool frame, and lastly I scattered a few of the Jungle Adventure like baskets around the place because I thought they may be using that to collect the fruits, to collect the flowers. And that is it. We are moving on to the screenshots now. I did build this originally in Newcrest, but then I moved it to Brindleton Bay because it just looked better in Brindleton Bay and it wasn't like so empty all around it. But if you build on this lot that I put it in Brindleton Bay, some of the stuff just gets in the way sometimes, and I prefer building it in Newcrest and then placing it there because it's just a better building experience. That is it for this build, and also let me remind you that I do have a giveaway happening on Twitter at the moment, so make sure to follow me on there. I'll leave the link to the Twitter post where I announce the giveaway down below so that you can join in. And thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already, and like this video and comment what you liked about it, and if you have any ideas for what I should build next. Thank you very much for watching, and bye!